Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Oxy Live in our historic Thorne Hall. My name is Shelby Carnisat, and I'm a junior theater and performance studies major here at Occidental College. I am honored to welcome you all tonight to our second event of the season. Oxy Live is presented by Occidental College with generous support from the Oxy alumni class of 1974 and Oxy alumna and trustee Lisa Casino. Tonight, I am thrilled to be introducing our special guest, Taylor Mack. An actor, playwright, singer-songwriter, and performance artist of the highest caliber, and this year's Occidental College Theater and Performance Studies Hume Fellow. I was introduced to Mack's works throughout my classes here and was blown away by the profound and deeply personal way that Judy managed to take songs from hundreds of years ago and relate them to the modern-day queer experience in America through times of great joy as well as great grief. Mack represents, in so many ways, the breaking of boundaries of what it means to be a queer person and artist, as well as a vivaciously joyful and love-filled portrayal of someone who refuses to be watered down, mislabeled, or categorized by the strict binaries of today. Taylor Mack is a MacArthur Fellow, a Pulitzer Prize finalist, a Tony nominee for Best Play, and the recipient of the International Ibsen Award. Dubbed a shapeshifter of the highest order by the New York Times, Mack creates experimental theater work that pushes the boundaries of performance, as in the Pulitzer Prize finalist epic, A 24-Decade History of Popular Music. Other selected works include Bark of Millions, a 55-song and counting parade trance extravaganza for the living library of the deviant theme, and An American Dionysia, 4 plays about the polarization of America. The Emmy Award-winning concert doc, Taylor Mack's 24-Decade History of Popular Music, is currently streaming on HBO Max. This evening's conversation is hosted by Alexandra Grant. Grant is a celebrated Los Angeles and Berlin-based visual artist whose work explores text, language, literature, and philosophy. She's exhibited in museums and galleries worldwide and collaborated with artists across disciplines. Her practice extends far beyond the studio as a cultural collaborator who supports and elevates the work of creatives and organizations across many communities. Grant is a steadfast advocate of artists and is particularly dedicated to supporting women and emerging artists. She's recognized for creating thoughtful spaces of dialogue and exchange, supporting artists' projects, and engaging audiences in conversations around creativity and cultural expression. In 2017, Grant co-founded the independent publisher X Artists Books to publish thoughtful, high-quality, artist-centered books. In 2008, she created the Grant Love Project to raise awareness and funds for various arts nonprofits, and this year launched Love Wine with J Vineyards to empower women and creativity in the wine industry and the art world. A trailblazer and champion of the arts, Grant brings her passion, love of conversation, and open heart to Oxy Live. Please join me in welcoming Taylor Mack and Alexandra Grant.
The revolution, it won't be masculinized, bravo. The revolution, it won't be masculinized.
Crazy. Hi.
Hi. Thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you for coming tonight, Taylor Mack.
You're
For
welcome.
coming back. I'm having the incredible pleasure of getting to know you on the couch back there and here on the chairs in front, but of getting to come to your performance last night here. You raised the roof. You raised the roof. It was such a profound experience of your jet lag.
Yeah.
You seem to be traveling inside your mind into different dimensions, into different ideas, and then coming back to the stage and inviting you with us through your humor and through your anecdotes and through song. So thank you for the gift of last night. One of the things that really struck me was you have a new, is it a new song about Oscar Wilde? Newish?
We wrote it for this show. It's a show called Bark of Millions, which is 56 songs and counting. We're adding to it every year. It's all the songs are inspired by different queer people from world history. The songs aren't necessarily about them, but they were inspired by the people. And so one of them is called Oscar Wilde. The whole point of the show is reverse conversion therapy, as I said last night, is that the idea is that you will exit more queer than when you entered. So it's kind of a trance show, and this particular song is very trance. The chorus just repeats and repeats and repeats, and Matt Ray, who composed the music, I wrote the lyrics, and Matt did kind of a Joni Mitchell thing where it never lands on the root of the, so you don't know what key it's really in, and it just keeps circling and circling, and that's partially because the idea is it's this trance of Oscar Wilde being in a prison and walking around the prison cell, yeah, or the yard. Yeah.
I think you mesmerized all of us. And we, at least in my row, I feel like we lost sense of time and space and where we were and how high the ceiling was. I felt that your dress, which might have been right side up or upside down or inside out, we're not sure, but that the whole room was red. Like that I almost felt that there was this connection between the sound and the color and the wave patterns. And I was wondering if you could talk to us a little bit about how you see the world. Like, are you synesthetic?
Oh,
Are your senses connected in a way? Like, do you talk to yourself like inside your head? You're like, Judy, I am seeing it this way. Like, how do you?
I don't talk to myself. I mean, I mean, I do. Just I think like most people do. When I'm in the shower, I rant at the world, and that's why I'm in therapy. But uh, I, I have, yeah, I've always had a very active internal life. I mean, I don't think of myself as in the third person, but
Yet.
but yeah, yet. But I I grew up in a really homogenous place that was incredibly diverse. What does that mean? It was Stockton, California, so it was incredibly diverse. All the demographics, but everybody was segregated in their little sections, and there was this idea that we were all supposed to be one thing. Um, uh, clearly heterosexual and one of two genders, and conservative, and pray to one God. And so there was this kind of sense of that everyone was moving towards one thing, and yet everyone was so different, and that created, I think, a lot of tension. And a lot of violence. It was the murder capital of America when I was growing up, and so I think I had all this stuff inside of me that I wasn't really safe to express. So I think at a certain point, I just, as a child, I kind of gave up on the world and everything went inside. But as an adult, it's all been able to come out. So that's maybe what you're feeling.
Well, I liked this idea of, you know, it's something that there's. I have two questions, and they're totally unrelated. Is when did you ever have to go see Billy Graham when you were growing up?
I did see, no, yeah, I didn't see Billy Graham.
Okay.
I saw his memorial concert
Okay.
in Golden Gate Park with, I mean, it was everyone was performing. I'd never seen the Dead before. They were performing, and Jefferson Airplane and or Starship or whatever they were called, and Tracy Chapman was there and Bobby McFerrin, and I mean it was a really kind of incredible. I was quite young, and it was an incredible concert, and they had all these. Seeds that they poured out of a truck that represented all the nuclear bombs in the world, and it was like thousands of them or something, and all these hippies were jumping into the seeds and taking off their clothes. So it was really a remarkable memory.
And this was Billy Graham's memorial service?
Yeah,
So can you
it
tell
was
the
like the
audience?
concert. It was
Okay.
his, like, he had
Can
just
you tell
died.
the audience, for people who might not be of our generation, who Billy Graham is or
Well,
was?
I'm not quite sure I even know. He was a music producer,
Yeah.
and he produced The Dead and all these people, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, I believe. I don't. Somebody in the house might know more than I do, but he was kind of a
If you
legendary
do,
music producer. What was the venue?
Bill Graham. Graham.
Oh,
Billy Graham is the
never mind.
evangelist.
Yeah, thank you.
The
Thank you.
evangelist.
I'm
I was
9
like,
hours. I'm 9 hours
I said,
ahead.
we're
I was just in
participating.
Italy.
We're participating in your jet lag again. It's fantastic. But I like this answer. It was definitely, I was like, wow, this is a very evangelical hippie funeral. I would thank you for just piping up.
I love it. No, I have no connection with any evangelicals.
Well, there, we
There
got
you
to the
go.
bottom of
That's
that
the
question.
answer.
Put that one aside. Now, what was my next
But
question?
that's a nice little technique that you can use when somebody brings up something that's unpleasant. Act like you misheard them and talk about something pleasant.
So you're a natural teacher.
I don't know. Yeah.
Today you had the pleasure, you are a guest not just of Oxy Arts, but of the Theater and Performance Studies. And you were working with students today. Do you work with students very often?
No, I don't. I don't. I don't. I'm not a teacher. This was, I think, the third time I've taught a class, and usually I haven't really liked it, but I liked it today. I thought it was really sweet. They were very open and vulnerable in the room, and excited and passionate. The thing. I was just in Oxford too, and all the kids are excited walking down the streets of Oxford. They're passionate and they're talking to each other, and I thought, wow, this is so different from American universities and colleges where I perform fairly regularly around the U.S. in universities, and usually the kids are sorry, the young adults are. Are depressed. There's a real sense of um, uh, just lost. They just seem lost and they seem sad. And the job there always seems to be like to get them out of their shell. And that's not the case. That wasn't the case in Oxford, and it wasn't the case. It's not the case here at all. It feels like a very happy campus. So, congratulations.
So you're a Californian,
Yeah, yeah. Born in Laguna, but
born in
raised in
Laguna.
Stockton. Yeah.
Okay. And how do you think coming from California and going to the East Coast has affected your outlook?
Um, whew. Uh,
Like, did you feel a pressure for being a performer to go to the East Coast, or is it?
I wanted to be a theater artist, and I felt, the only way to do that from the kind of Stockton upbringing that I had, theater meant Broadway. I didn't know that there was an alternative. So that seemed like the only option that I would have to go to New York. And then when I got to New York, I discovered that there was this whole different world called Mabou Mines and the Wooster Group and the Pyramid Club, and Charles Ludlam, and just different ways of Karen Finley. I was in a Karen Finley show for 8 months where I dressed up as kidney dialysis Liza Minnelli, and we would have Liza Minnelli. There was 20 other Liza Minnellis, and she would do this long monologue that was different every single night, and we would have Liza Minnelli orgies around her while she would be performing, and that's not what you're raised to think theater can do in Stockton, California. You think it's going to be Cats, which it's not too dissimilar, but that is that. It was such a relief, and I didn't even know I needed the relief when I finally discovered that world in New York. It felt like okay, I felt like I was home, whereas my time in San Francisco and in Stockton always felt like I don't know where I am. Yeah.
I love that the feeling of home, because it's some part of it is the physical, but part of it is just this ineffable, emotional, intellectual, creative. I know what to do. It's safety and freedom at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, honestly, I'd never felt so safe as when I moved to New York City, and I'm. I mean, Stockton was just so violent, and but there were just other queers on the street in New York City, and they were in San Francisco too, but San Francisco um, had an edge to it, and also I was there when everyone was dying of AIDS, so there was an incredible punk energy to it, but it didn't feel like a safe place to be. Um, and New York suddenly felt everyone was complaining about the crime, but it definitely wasn't New York in the 80s, it had changed. Yeah.
And how did you I I don't this idea of breaking in, now sounds like we're breaking into someone's house, but how did you get your foot, what are all these metaphors? Foot in the door, break in? Did you book your first audition? How did that happen?
Oh, yeah. Um, well, the theater wouldn't have me. I mean, I tried to
Yeah,
get to
tell.
work in the theater for a good 7 years after school, after acting school, and I couldn't get a single audition. I couldn't get an agent. I couldn't. I tried and did everything people told you to do, and I just couldn't get a foot in the door. I couldn't. That what they'd tell you is that, oh, you're gonna have to compete with all these people. It's gonna be so hard. What they don't tell you is you're not even gonna be able to compete. And so that was incredibly depressing because I know this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And so I went where they would take anybody, and that was the clubs. So the clubs, you just show up and you say, "Can I do something?" And back in those days, now it might be more corporate than it was then, but and they would just be like, "Sure." So and I'm sure there are bars even here that would do that too. So no, what I mean, even here, of course there are.
Even
And I
here.
mean, even here at Occidental College. Uh, and
Over by Billy Graham's
yes,
seed pile.
I'm never gonna live that down. So
I just let you keep going because I was like, I have literally no idea what you're talking about, but it's
what is
so
happening?
you're 8 years old, rolling in seeds and listening to the Grateful Dead at a
Yeah,
funeral.
exactly.
Of course you
Oh my god.
are.
Yeah. So yeah, that was my New York life. I know I went to the clubs and I just started performing in clubs, and then I kind of got a reputation in the club world, and then I managed to find my way. I got even rejected from La Mama, and that's bad. Like La Mama wouldn't even let me do my show there. So once had a reputation in the club world, then La Mama would let me do my show there, as well as lots of other kind of downtown spaces. And then it kind of went from there.
And then there's that point. So I'm an artist, and what's so interesting about the art world and the gallery world is that all the galleries say we don't take submissions, right? And so you're a young artist and you have, your portfolio, and it's like, you're not allowed to approach, but then how do you get in? And it's like this weird moment where it's like a sleight of hand almost, where you're like on the outside and then something weird happens. And it's always something sort of random, like, I don't know, spilling a coffee of some lady at the coffee shop and then realizing,
Yeah, it's
it's
just about showing up and making your stuff
and community.
and being in community and showing up and showing up and showing up. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was that's the that's the only advice that I think actually works. Really,
Just
it's
showing up.
just showing up and making, constantly
Hmm.
doing.
Hmm.
Um and living the life that you want to live as opposed to the life you think you're supposed to live. And if I ended up doing this show with Mandy Patinkin, a two-man show with Mandy Patinkin, and um, if I had tried to get an audition for directed by Susan Stroman, if I had tried to get an audition for a show directed by Susan Stroman, starring Mandy Patinkin, it wouldn't have happened. But
So how did it happen?
well, my friend had a theater company. She was Mandy's assistant. She asked him to perform at her gala. She asked me to perform at her gala. This is Rachel Chafkin, who's the director that directed Hadestown, but this is before she was famous and stuff. So we both said yes, but Mandy said I'll only do it if he'll do a show with me because I don't want to do like my number, his number. Like he just wanted to perform, but he never actually seen me in drag or anything. He didn't know anything about me. That's just Mandy's. He's fun and wonderful that way. And so we got together and we rehearsed, and I'm kind of dressed like this, and we're rehearsing in his apartment, and we get the show together. And then on the day of the show, I dress up, and he he's backstage looking at me like, and so then we did the show, and it was electric, partially because he was just so alive with everything is different. Now, he's a very moment to moment actor, and and our voices blended together because when I was 13, I listened to all his albums, so I knew all his phrasing, and I kind of raised my voice on his voice, so our voices worked together. And then when it was done, said, "You should make a show together." So we did. It was really, really sweet. It was a good experience.
I love this. But the idea of like finding harmony with another person that you don't know and then building from there
Yeah,
is such a beautiful way of creating a work, right? So,
yeah,
right.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
listening to you harmonize last night also was
Mm.
so incredible. And there's something, it's not just one, it's not 1+1 harmony. This is me not being a music person trying to like
Well,
doing
you know
this.
the universe. I mean, the universe is constantly vibrating, right? And one of the many philosophies of the purpose of life is that we're just trying to harmonize with the universe. That's the best. That's that's the whole reason we're here, is so that we can harmonize with the universe. Harmonizing means that you're an individual and you're part of the collective. It doesn't mean that you're just swallowed up by the whole. It means you're also your own note, but you're making something that's bigger than yourself. And that's what theater really is. Theater is arguably the most collaborative art form there is. And I had a wise teacher once said that if you don't want your vision to change, you probably shouldn't work in the theater. And that's true of harmonizing, and I think that's true of the universe, and that's true of the political system too. Like you can't hunker down to having one way of being. We are many, and so your vision has to change when you get together with other people. But that's the fun part.
I love that. I think very much that your idea of the one and the sort of the greater body is how you made me and us feel last night. Those of us who were here and having just seen your HBO doc. On, not that I'm giving a shout out to
No,
20.
give a shout out.
So what
I'm
is your
really
doc
proud of
called?
it.
What is your doc called?
It's called a 24 Taylor Mack's 24 Decade History of Popular Music. It's a show that we made. It's a 24-hour long show, but the doc is less than 2 hours. And Rob Epstein and Jeffrey Friedman were the directors of the concert doc. And but the show that I made was it's about communities in America building themselves as a result of being torn apart. So from 1776 all the way to the present, what we do is every decade of U.S. history, we go through. We work in a different community, meaning on stage I explore a different community that was building itself as a result of being torn apart, and we use the songs that were popular in that decade to do that and deconstruct them. And there's tons of audience participation, and I don't really call it audience participation. I call it a radical fairy realness ritual sacrifice. So the idea is I'm using the audience as my art supply, essentially. With the purpose of letting go of things that we're holding on to that from the past that aren't serving us in the present moment, is sort of the opposite of make America great again. It's like make America great now. So at any rate, we do every hour. It's a different chunk of music, and in 2016 we did a 24-hour long performance, and filmed it. And then we took it on tour as 4 6-hour shows, and took it to the Ace Theater here, and filmed more of it here. And so that's what the movie is. It's a combination of the 24-hour performance and those shows at the Ace.
And one by one, the musicians getting to go home and to sleep
Yeah.
and rest.
Yeah,
And
so there's 24 musicians on stage at the start of the show, and every hour we lose a musician, and the audience doesn't really know why. For the stage show, in the film, you kind of find out early on, but in the stage show, we don't tell them until hour 21 when we get to the AIDS epidemic, and then it's kind of revealed that the whole show has been a big metaphor for the AIDS epidemic. And so we've lost that. So we've had all this support and all this sound at the start of the show, but as it's gotten harder and harder to do, the orchestra has gotten smaller and smaller, and people that you've been hanging out with all day long and are very emotionally connected to, because they've been providing you with this music and music and music in their hearts, and then they're suddenly gone. So that's the story.
it's a wonderful, wonderful documentary, and I urge everyone to see it later. It's it's a profound feeling of loss at the end.
Um,
Or you're just like, oh my God, I get to sit down.
yeah, after 24 hours in heels. Uh, I, yes. There's a lot of loss, and there's a sense of, and we can, we can move forward. Yeah, because the show's really about all the history that we have on our backs, and how complicated that is, how hard it is to just um, go about our normative lives with all of that history on our backs, and yet the offering is that you can. And it's Beckett in the sense of, I can't go on, I'll go on. Yeah, that's that.
How do you, when you finish a work, in a way it's never finished because there's the opportunity to perform parts of it again, or now it's sort of reinvented as a new form, as a film or a documentary. And but how do you keep nourishing yourself to create new ideas? Like, how have you, I was just struck last night by just the incredible creativity that emanates from you. And I know the joke that you made about everything sort of compacted in your childhood, but even in that, like, there's a volcanic aspect to your creativity. And what feeds you? What keeps you? Is it an emotion? Is it just a constant curiosity? Is it your relationships within the collaborations?
Um, I, 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 I guess I just, I don't, there's so many things to write about. There's so many things to be interested in, and it's not that I don't. I've never had writer's block. I'm not sure that's a real thing. I think there's human fatigue, and depression, but I'm not sure that's writer's block necessarily. There's moments in your life where you feel so tired, um, and sometimes those moments go on for many years, but I guess ultimately it's because um, we're ever moving. We never stop moving, so there's always something. So change is part of our nature, and so if you just settle down and pay attention to how your atoms are moving, and the world is moving and changing, then there's something to create. And I think uh, the only solution I have found to uh, um, fatigue is action, which doesn't mean go, 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 rest, sleep, but I I find that that's the way out of any kind of lack of motion. It's just impossible to stay still. So we're always moving, So there's nothing straight in the universe, right? The straight is a man-made concept, so everything's queer, everything's wobbly, everything's a little and everything's moving, everything's changing. So to kind of deny that, to stop moving, stop creating, is to be anti-nature. and um, and so who wants to be anti-nature? I mean,
And who
lots of
wants
people, but not me.
Well, it's great. It's like that idea of like, well, who would want to be straight then? With that definition.
Yeah, it's a construct,
Hmm.
as they say.
I it's funny. You're making me think. I remember being at a frustrated point in my career, and my sister. I said to my sister, "This is the most LA thing." I said to her, "I said I just feel like a Maserati stuck in traffic," and she was like, "Oh, okay." Like big engine, burning and not being able to go anywhere because of
Having all this.
patriarchy and the rules and the
Yeah.
red light and the no, not you. And she just said, build your own road,
Yeah.
build your own fucking road. And I was like, wow, okay. And I just remember that permission of like, but it's that stuckness of following the rules, of waiting your turn, and just this feeling of burning my own engine up with the stuckness.
Yeah.
And so it was like this amazing permission. There's something I'm very curious about because um, it's, when I think about being in college, I think I said this, at least maybe you don't know this, but in my bio, I didn't hear the total bio. Anyway, I went to Swarthmore College. I went to a liberal arts college. I loved studying liberal arts because it was like every curiosity. I went as a math major. I left as an art major. My mother was like, oh, um, but no, I just like looking at you, and now I'm like, okay, Billy Graham's funeral again. Here we go.
That was
Just like
that was so
no,
much fun.
the ellipsis. But I remember thinking, you can't help but think when you're a younger person and you're in college that that there is, even if you try to manage expectations, you still have expectations, right? And it's something very interesting in an artist's life when you show up, when you build community, when you do the work, and there's one day your resume is empty, and then the next time you look, it's like 3 pages long, and you're like, how? What? A lot of blood, sweat, and tears. But people don't prepare you for success. People train you for failure. Failure is talked about. Failure is bonding.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
just wondered if you could talk a little bit. I think it's so important to talk about like what surprises that you're, because right now, you went to New York and you couldn't get in even into the line to get into the door, to get into the room where maybe you had a chance. You couldn't even do that. And then you figured out your Maserati was stuck in traffic. You built your own road.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
now you're like, wow, sailing. Like, how do you, were there pitfalls to success? And I'm also curious because then this thing of being like awarded this award that's called genius, like, does that mess with your head? And like,
uh,
is that a burden or a
y-
gift, or
y-
how does that, like, I just wondered if you could tell me as a new friend.
uh,
No, but I'm serious because I think we talk so much about solidarity and failure, but we don't talk about how hard success is. And there's envy directed at you. So then your head has all these new, who do I trust? What's my next idea? There's so many other pressures. And I wonder, in your generous spirit and your tenderness, if you could share with us a little bit about that experience of yours.
Uh, i- it's, I think every single good thing that's happened to me in my, I hate to use this word, career, uh, within 24 hours, 48 hours, something mean happens. And it's shocking. It's almost like math. Um, and the reason I think that is because of capitalism, and because we view art in this country anyway, as, do you deserve the position you have? So instead of that, art is here as a form of prayer, as a form of wondering. That's what art is. Art is wondering, perpetual consideration. And that's all that prayer is perpetual consideration. So art is a prayer in a lot of ways. uh, Instead of viewing it as something to dig into and wonder about, we go, do you deserve that? They deserve that. That person didn't deserve that. They should win that. They should, oh, okay, yeah, I understand why they got the money. Oh, no, 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 no. Why did they, I should get the money. Da, 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 da. Well, it's all just a competition. Competition, I think, is evil. I think it's really evil. And I think sports are evil. I don't know. I mean, I don't think using your physical body is evil. I don't think playing is evil. I don't think being with other people in physical contact and exhausting yourself with them, I don't think that's evil. I think trying to win over another person is evil, even if you call it play, and especially if you call it art. So, so I think that's why. I think people come and they don't view, we're not trained as Americans to wonder. This is why we have an insurrectionist rapist as a president, is because the people have lost their ability to have critical thinking. And so no one wonders. They just want to know who's going to win. And then if it's not their guy, they're angry and they got to figure out how to win next time, right? So that's why every time something good happens to me, there's this outpouring of love for about 24 hours, and then the vultures come. And then the resentment comes, and then the people start feeling like, why don't I have that? And it's really it's a sickness, and I hope we get over it one day. I mean, I'm trying to be in meditation of it and look at the ways that I do it too, because we're raised in this culture and this is how we behave. But it's not healthy for us, and so I highly recommend trying to get yourself out of the loop of that.
I think it's just such an important thing to talk about, how much energy, how much of our mental resources, how much of our creativity goes to the business of hate.
Of hate.
Of hate. The whole internet and the whole social media is driven by hatred.
Because it's capitalism, because people feel like they can't survive. So they have great anxiety over surviving, and it's very hard to survive in this system. And so uh, so it's just capitalism, and capitalism is set up so that somebody has to lose. It's a really faulty program.
So thank you. So the tenderness, I know, I love that from last night. That's so you brought us along into a voyage of tenderness, and I want to sort of do the same tonight. Like, one of the reasons I took this job is because I have similar questions about how to be an artist in the world, and I'm very uninterested in comparing myself to other artists. In fact, I find the shop talk of artists, intra artists, just absolutely exhausting and, you know, uninteresting. So how do we take this moment with these wonderful people who are here? Can we do something now to just be together without competition, without forcing you to perform a song? Do you know what I mean? Like,
I don't know. Are we in competition? I don't think we are.
no, no, no. But I mean, like, how do you know? Like, this is what was that? So, it's conversation, right? Like versing together. Is that what a conversation is? Is this what?
Yeah, I mean, we're inching our way to each other. I mean, that's how I think of it. Yeah. I mean, maybe sometimes I don't want to be Pollyanna about it. Sometimes maybe we're inching our way away from each other. But everything's it's all circular, so we'll find our way to each other eventually. Yeah, I think it's just that's what conversations are. Um, trying to trying to understand, slowing down, I think um is one of the great joys. That's what I kept saying to the students today. They were reading poems and things that they'd written, and everyone was going really fast. And I know that impulse, adrenaline, is something that takes over our hearts a lot, and it takes over our tempo. And I think it's really good just to just slow down, just maybe go at the pace of the water, you know.
There's still action there.
There's still action, yeah, but just slowing down a little bit is important. Yeah.
If you could do anything, make anything, bottomless resources, what would you do, make?
Oh my, what
Yeah.
a question.
Build an ark.
Bottom lip, build my own road. I mean, I would like to think. Okay, we'll take all the humanitarian things out of the equation, so we can
It would be
focus
cake.
maybe. I mean, you're right. If I could do anything I wanted to do, then um, I'd make sure people aren't hungry, and I'd make sure that the planet could breathe, and I would look, if I had Musk money, I would pay my fair share of taxes and make it so that people could uh, have universal income, so that they didn't have to worry about. Wouldn't that be wonderful? If we could focus on stuff like I was thinking the other day, oh, people are calling you, they're harassing you nonstop in order to maybe scam you, in order to get like this money and this, and everyone's selling something online. Wouldn't it be wonderful if everyone could just stop selling and stop trying to scam each other, because everybody had a basic income? And if Musk gave us half of his money, everyone could have a basic income, and then the government could work on things like how to stop people from uh, robocalling you. Like that could be like the big task of the government, instead of how to fight for eternally for healthcare. You know what I mean? Like if we all just had basic income, and then we wouldn't have to compete so much with each other, and it's possible. So that's what I would. That's the project. That's the great art project I would do, but I probably wouldn't know how to do that. I don't have the skill set for that. So I would probably just make shows. I don't know. I'm just like I would just fund my shows that I have right now. That I like. You say like, oh, we make it, and you think. I mean, this is the interesting thing that happens. I think to most artists is that they have a big splash, and then everyone's great because of capitalism. Everyone says, and ageism. Everyone says, great, done with you. What's the next shiny thing that we need to try to help and support, right? And so for the queerdo artists of a certain generation, it took me till I was 45 to break through. Um, and and so I thought, okay, great. I know that phase is going to come where no one wants to pay attention to me. I just thought it was going to be when I was 60. But then I had 2 years, and now like I can't get my work produced. So I'm back into square one trying to figure out how to make it all happen. So that's the strange thing. Um to prove yourself over and over and over and over and over again, and then you still have to do it. That's just a reality, I think, of the world that we live in. It's not personal. It's just, yeah. So I think that's what I would do. I'm making a show about Clarence Thomas, um, and it's not really about him. It's about how a white liberal feels about Clarence Thomas, and the complications of all that. And it's a music theater piece, so I'm doing that. And my dear dramaturg Morgan Jeunesse, she passed away. Yeah, and she was basically my mom. And so I've been thinking a lot about loss and uh, losing losing democracy, or at least the aspiration for democracy. Um, and not my personal aspiration, but the country's aspiration seems to have is maybe gone. Um, and so losing that at the same time of losing a dear loved one to me is sparking curiosity. And so I've been researching a lot about loss and philosophies of loss, and so I'm gonna make she she lived a really wild, crazy life, and I always wanted to make a piece about her, and I never did while she was around. So I thought, oh, I think I'm going to make a piece about her where she possesses my body. And she always wanted to make a cabaret show, but she was never quite brave enough to do it. Um, and so I thought, oh, she'll possess my body, and we'll make a cabaret show together. So that's going to be like the next kind of project. Yeah.
We can't wait. Do you think you will remain in New York City?
Uh, I I mean I have a husband of 28 years, and and I, he's very he's ingrained in a plot of land in Western Massachusetts. So he's the trees on this land. He bought the land in the 70s for $15,000, and it was unsurveyed, and it turned out it was 115 acres later when it was surveyed. So he's been a steward of this land for all these years, and the trees he's a tree in this woods. So I could never do anything to take him away from that. It would be too painful for both of us to see him not in that world. And so that's my long way of saying, no, I don't think I think it would have to be a political, they'd have to steal it from us. Yeah.
I'd love to hear a love letter that began, I married a tree.
I married a tree. I did kind of marry a tree. I mean, I mean, a moving tree. Yeah. He never stops moving. Yeah.
He's an oriented person as well.
Yeah, yeah, he's very, yeah, yeah. Yeah, he's a dear man.
I like to talk about love. Can you talk about, um, if you don't mind my prying along with everyone here, into the role it has played in your life?
Um, hmm. he's uh, he's there's nobody like him. He's really there's just nobody like this human. He's so strange. He's so kind of normative when you look at him, if he's wearing a button-down shirt, but he is so strange. And I'm just endlessly I'm just endlessly curious about his oddity and what's made him. And he talks to everybody, and his favorite thing in the world is to talk to a sales clerk and get them to joke with him. It's his art form, and I don't understand it because oftentimes I I think of it as efficiency, which is probably an evil word. I keep saying evil. Evil is an evil word, um, but efficiency is maybe not the best thing in the world, So I'll be like, I just want to buy the piece of gum, and get out of here. And he'll be like, hey, he wants to joke with the sales guy. But there's something so. I was raised with a lot of trauma, and he was raised with a lot of privilege, and it has freed him in a way. He's so pure, and I think that has been a real gift to be around somebody who is just uh, curious and loving and doesn't approach the world with cynicism as much as I do. I'm constantly in a battle of trying to get rid of the cynicism, and he just doesn't really have too much. you know. It's not to say that he doesn't have some, and I mean, he's also a shit sometimes, but he's just, yeah, he's just great. He's
This is a really unimportant question, but Halloween is coming up. So, what does Taylor Mack do on Halloween?
You mean amateur night? That's so shit. No, no, it's so mean. Oh, that's so mean. I mean, right? So the holidays are these. They're such They're all these pagan holidays that capitalism or religion has taken over. Um, Paganism is a religion. So Halloween, is the time when people got to break out of the social dictate, got to break out of the thing that they're supposed to do. They used to dress. Oh, men could dress like women. Oh, and it'd be okay. But it's this time when people get to express something that they don't normally get to express. So it's this wonderful gift of a release of the pressure. And then there are those of us who basically have maybe have had to treat our daily lives as a release of pressure because there's just maybe a bit more pressure. And So that's just the difference. I tend to not do anything. I tend to stay in. But I used to love it when I was a kid. I mean, I loved it. And in New I loved it in San Francisco. My first orgy I ever went to was in San
There
Francisco
was
on Halloween
birdseed.
night in the middle of Castro Street. It was incredible, and at the height of the AIDS epidemic, and everyone taking care of each other and figuring out a way to have safe sex in public, and with drumming, and everyone wearing half of their costumes still. I mean, I was like 19 at the time, and I just was. It was, oh, this is liberation. Um, and this is what a pagan holiday can actually do. It can release you from 19 years of sexual oppression, and uh, yeah, special occasions can do wonderful things for you. So I'm not against it, um, but this is the crazy thing about certain behavior on holidays is that what I've noticed it in my shows is I often will tell the audience, okay, the rules are different than what you're normally used to when you come to the theater, and some people mistake that to assume that means there are no rules. So you'll get guys who like see a burlesque performer walking down the aisle of the theater, and he's like, there are no rules, and they'll slap her on the ass or something like that. And then you have to go, okay, so let's slow down. Let's reestablish what we mean by the rules are different. Which is like you don't get to do anything you want. And so that's what I've always kind of felt a little bit like these big holidays like St. Patrick's Day and Santa
Santa.
Con, that fucking evil. That's evil, Santa Con. I know you guys don't have it here. Do you have it here? It's like
I
a
don't have any idea what you're talking about,
it's
but
a
I'm sure Billy Graham was there.
yeah, it's a bunch of Bill Grahams get together and they dress up like Santa Claus and get really drunk and then they act out for the whole day and they're like, "Yeah." And so that's kind of like Halloween in New York is a little bit like that. And so I do kind of stay away from it. It's if there was a vowel that described Halloween in New York City, it would be yeah.
Where do we go? Where do we go from there? I feel like if you could give us one more Taylor Macadamian, uh, um, I would love for everyone to leave today with a little gift from you. And how would you mend a broken heart?
Oh, wow. Um, take a deep breath, right? Just take a deep breath and uh, find somebody who looks like they have a broken heart and just say hi. That's all. I think it's that maybe that simple. Um, I mean, it's going back to the thing of movement. Uh, to the idea of a broken heart is a concept. Uh, it's we're constantly moving, so that to be have a broken heart is to be anti-nature. So it's in some way to decide that you're not going to move. I know it's hard to say it that way because when you're in a deep sorrow, uh, you don't have your reasoning skills to reason yourself out of sorrow. But I I think your body wants to change, and so I think just try to take a deep breath and allow the breath to help you move and change, and then pay attention to somebody else. Um, I learned this, this is what I learned in voice and speech class many, many years ago is that one of the reasons we forget is because we're holding our breath. So, and I found that so true on a stage. If I memorized 240 songs for a show and 24 hours worth of material, and at times I would go, I don't know what the next moment is, and I would find that if I just go and take the chance, it would just come out. So it's there in us, and I think that probably applies to love too, no matter how much sorrow we have in us, and how much anxiety or fear we have over the country. um, or how intimidating an ICE agent might be. I think then there might be a solution after that. But if we hold our breath, uh, maybe we get into more trouble.
Thank you, Taylor Mack, for this wonderful evening together.
Yeah.
You're such a joy to spend time with.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much for coming tonight.
In 1649